Alright guys, this is my greenhouse, and like I say, I try to be transparent on my channel and show you what things really look like. It's amazing how dirty my greenhouse can get in just a short period of time. So I'm going to take you inside my greenhouse, give you a little tour, and then I'm going to start cleaning this up, and I'll kind of show you before or after, because I have to start getting ready to bring my plants in. It's not time yet, but I've got to get on it to have this space ready to bring my plants in for the fall and for the winter. So let me show you inside and show you what I'm talking about, okay? So let's go. Alright, here's my greenhouse, y'all. And when I'll put in here a picture of what my greenhouse looks like in the winter time when I get it all cleaned up and I have all my plants in here. I always tell people it looks like Mrs. Plum in the conservatory when this thing's stocked full of my plants. But you know, this is kind of a catch-all. I come in here, I'll pot something up, and I just kind of throw it. My seeds are in here. This is not how it normally looks. But let me get in here and get this cleaned up, because I really need to repot some things. I have a lot of plants that need to be repotted and get in the ground that I just haven't done yet. I just ran out of time. And like for instance, look at this. The roots are like completely out of the pot. I've got to repot this plant for sure. It's a ZZ plant, and I'll go over some of my potting and stuff with you. But this is just an absolute disaster in here, and it's normally not like this at all. But you know, it's just how it is sometimes. So let me get to cleaning, and I'll try to show you the before and after, and then show you some of my repotting, okay? So I'll talk to y'all later. Thanks for visiting with me. Alright, y'all, one of the things I do for my greenhouse is I recycle. I'm a big proponent. You would not really believe at the amount of waste that the horticulture industry and plastics that they use. So what I try to do, and if you don't do this, that's fine. But also too, think of people, if you are just a small-time gardener and you buy a few plants every year to plant in your yard, take your pots to a elementary school or a daycare that's doing a garden program. You can take them to your local garden club. You could recycle them and take them to your local master gardeners group. Take them back to the greenhouses or the local nurseries that you buy from. See if they do any kind of recycle program. But another thing that I do is on all my pots that I save, that I bring in, that I buy from other things, is I wash all my pots. And I know that seems kind of like an overkill, but if you get a disease in a greenhouse, it is sometimes very hard to get that squelched. And so I wash all my pots with Castile soap. I have just a big bottle of Castile soap. It's sitting out here on a shelf in my greenhouse. And sometimes I have big tubs, whatever's handy, I fill up, and I kind of usually try to pre-rinse my containers so that my water's not quite so dirty. And then I wash all my pots and that I recycle, and then I put them up on my shelf, and when they're up on my shelf, I know they're clean. Usually I have a tub or a box or something here, and as I'm using pots, or as I bring pots in that I'm buying plants out of, I just put all those pots, fill them up in a tote, and then when that tote gets full, then I wash the containers. So I know when my pots are up on my shelf and ready to be used, they have been washed. And that's just one of the things that I do to try to keep disease out of my greenhouse. So that's just a little tip in this video of my greenhouse cleaning out that I'm going to give you. So let me get back at it. Bye bye. Hey guys, it's Angela here again at the Chicken Coop, and I just wanted to show y'all my greenhouse kind of after I got it a little bit straightened up. It's not perfect, but it's better than it was. And kind of give you a little tour of my greenhouse and kind of tell you about it. Now, this is a greenhouse that my husband built me, and at the time I just had probably about 4 or 5 plants that I wanted to keep in the winter from freezing. So I thought he would build me just this little small greenhouse, and he built me this, which I am so thankful for now that he went ahead and built me this. But like everything we do at our homestead, we try to recycle, repurpose, reuse, upgrade, whatever. So and I'm going to tell you, first off, my husband is an engineer, but the things that he learned, the skills that he learned, were really from his father. His father was a skilled carpenter by trade, and that's what he did. The majority of his life was build. And so, he and his mother my father-in-law and my mother-in-law raised 6 children, 5 boys and 1 girl. And pretty much all the boys can do some light carpenter, if not some pretty good carpentry work, but nothing like he was. He was just incredible. But so my husband ended up, I wanted to use windows for my greenhouse, and he bought these windows and a whole bunch more of them. They were actually over 100 aluminum windows, and he bought them for like $100 or something, maybe 50, I can't even remember, but not very much. We chose the best ones out of the group, and the ones that were kind of matching, so that the size and everything would be consistent. And he set out to design a greenhouse using those dimensions of those windows. So this is all treated lumber, and the treated lumber is what we paid for, was the treated lumber. But the windows, like I say, we got and recycled. And then this flooring, this deck flooring, was also off of a project. That barn that he took down there was also a deck out there that a trailer house had been next to, and he said, what are y'all gonna do with that deck? And they're like, you can have it. So he brought the deck home, and we've repurposed it. Now, did it fit across here totally? No. Does it have some holes where some posts and stuff were? Yes, and I'll kind of tell you about that as we go. But it is been a wonderful floor. It is treated timber as well, and it couldn't have worked out better for my greenhouse. So he designed this as with these windows in mind. And the other thing, so all these windows open, so it gives ventilation, because in Texas, that's the hardest part about a greenhouse. It is usually hot. And I used it for several years, just like this. Then a couple years ago, we were at Lowe's, and they were taking the sheet roofing off of the greenhouse part of Lowe's, and it was 16 feet sheets of this, maybe even 20, and they were over there stacked on the side. And my husband's like, what are you gonna do with those sheets that you're taking off? And the guy goes, nothing. You want them? And so my husband's like, I'm going home to get the trailer. And he came back and got the trailer. Well, by the time he got back, there was other people taking sheets of it, but there was plenty. And so he skimmed over the roof of this greenhouse with that sheeting, that used sheeting off of the Lowe's garden center. And that has made a tremendous difference. Number one, in the winter it's made a difference because it's like a double insulation, and in the spring and summer it's made a difference because it's not so hot like you're baking in an oven in here with all these glass windows. So it has really helped. And then in the summer we still raise the windows, and that allows a little bit of heat and everything to escape. So this is my greenhouse. He could tell you the size of it. I couldn't tell you the size of it, but it has worked really, really well. The other things that I want to tell you, we brought in last year. This is just sitting on the ground. It is treated timber, but it's just resting on the ground. And we brought in rocks for this side over here, because this is mainly where I put my plants in the winter time, is all along here. And like I say, it looks like Mrs. Plum in the conservatory when that happens. I installed this rack last year, and I really have liked that. That's been really good for like seed starting and small plants, and so that is a wonderful thing. And then, you know, just through the years, we've gotten some used shelving and stuff like that. My husband and my son love to, you know, thrift for stuff. This plant right here, I bought this plant, and it was just a small little stick of a plant, and it has gotten huge. That is a flame stick pencil cactus. That I used to take that in and out of here every year, but when it grew over 10 feet tall, my husband says that's enough. So its permanent home is here. And it does get wider than that, but I try to keep it narrow, so when I prune the limbs off of it and stuff, I propagate the limbs, and I have propagated hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these plants. As you can see, I have them everywhere. This was a plant that I got from a friend of mine. It was a huge plant, real overgrown, up a trellis, and her husband was kind of like the same thing. Okay, we got to do something with this plant. I'm like the house for the misfit toys here, except with plants. And so she gave me this plant. Took me forever to figure out what the plant is, and I finally found it on a plant website, and it's called Queen of the Night. It's an epiphyllum. Well, I had to do something with that plant. It was going crazy. I cut it all back, and I had tons and tons of leaves. I propagated all those leaves, and that just turned into this, and now these are big and huge, and I have sold, you know, and given away a ton of these. Queen of the Night. This was the original plant that I cut back, but I'm telling you, that thing was probably about 3 or 4 feet tall from the pot up this trellis, and just was going crazy. It is a very easy plant to grow. I've not seen it bloom yet, but she says it blooms like a white flower, real pretty white flower. This is a plant that we have not tackled yet. My husband's going to have to help me. I got this from a nursing home. A nursing home called me. They had this out front. They said, and I've had it for 2 or 3 years and haven't done anything with it. They said, would you want it? I said, sure, I'll come get it. I had even no idea what it was, so I brought it home. It's a big, huge split leaf philodendron of some sort, and it is way overgrown. I'm going to need help with this, but what I'm planning on doing, it looks like at one point somebody has cut it off, because the lower stems are small and then it gets big again. So I'm going to try to cut them off, re-root the tops, separate these 2 out, or might get rid of those 2 if I can get the other 2 to re-root, because they're all crooked. They're, you know, it wasn't staked properly when it got this big, and start over again, and probably take it to my church as well, because this thing is too big for my greenhouse. This plant over here, this is only probably about 1/4 of it. I had bought this snake plant from a lady for $20 in a pot about that big, and I mean, I have propagated and propagated and propagated off of that, and I'm still not even touching it really. But I have 2 or 3 other pots of this that are just huge. This is my storage area. These are my pots that I keep and reuse and recycle. It's just kind of my storage area. Just, you know, gravel that I put on top of plants. More things for like Epsom salts, Miracle Grow, that type thing. My shelves that I propagate plants on, they don't look too pretty right now. They don't have any plants on them. Let's see, these are some things I worked on yesterday. These are just kind of pretty much always stay in here. I'm always propagating something. These were some jade plant that I propagated. Looks pretty good. Just different things. I use a lot of sand propagation sometimes, so those are my sand propagations. Just different things. It's a potting tub. Okay, this shelf was a shelf in my daughter's store. It did have that laminate on there, but that laminate was coming off. And so we recycled and repurposed this as my potting shelf. So it works good. My husband's installed water in here. I have electricity in here. I have a misting system that he has put in. Though the misting system really almost keeps things a little bit too wet. I could set it for less watering, but I do have it in the heat of the summer. This is a tub that I keep in here for all the leaves and things that I pull off of plants or sticks or whatever, plants that didn't make it or whatever. I just throw them in that box, and then when that tub gets full, I take it out to my compost pile. That tub right there, I used to have a big huge worm farm that is full of worm castings that I incorporate into my garden and into my potting soil. That is a tub that I just always dump my potting soil in there, and then I can amend it and put other things in it if I want to. Just some old shelves and stuff that we've reclaimed. Nothing fancy in here. Like I talk about, it's just nothing fancy. My husband, electricity. I was so lucky that I love it when I got electricity. We just have a screen porch, screen door for in here. And in the summertime, I raise the windows up. In the winter times, those all get closed. So this is my greenhouse that I just wanted to show y'all after it got cleaned up in here. A couple years ago, we extended onto my greenhouse and actually added a storage area. The storage area is the same side as the greenhouse, I think. It does have a floor in it. We recycled all the flooring and all the boards to make that side. I'll show you that here in a minute. Well, hold on. We'll just go walk over there. I'll be back in just a second. Alright, so this is the back end of my greenhouse. My husband extended my greenhouse. I guess we worked on this last summer, I think, is when we did this. This is my rain barrel. I use it to water plants and stuff out here mostly. It's something new that we've added to the greenhouse. I don't have it piped inside my greenhouse, but I use it a lot of times to just fill up a water can and water over here on this side of my greenhouse, because the spigot is on the other side, the front side of my greenhouse. But actually, I went to a class. Our local Wood County Arboretum does classes, and I learned about rainwater catchment systems and all that kind of stuff. And in my class, with the paying of the class, I got a rain barrel and the faucet and everything, so that was pretty cool. And then my husband rigged it up that it's actually catching water off the roof of my greenhouse. He kind of split a PVC pipe and made a gutter, and he slid it up underneath the section of roofing so that it catches the rainwater and into my rain barrel. This is just kind of the back side of that holds a lot of our tools and things. He made like a little porch out here. We have the rain barrel on here, of course. Here's kind of some of my plants that I like the shade to get it when I had to get them out of my greenhouse because it was getting so hot here in Texas. And so here's my little ramp. And we made a little ramp just because we could row our wheelbarrow up there and all that kind of stuff. It would make it a little bit easier. Okay, so here is this room. Like I say, it's just an extension off my greenhouse. We built it with the same siding that we had gotten off of the Lowe's. If you remember one of my other videos, I talked about that we went when Lowe's was taking down the roof off of their greenhouse side, and they were just going to throw all these sheets away, and my husband's like, oh no, I'll go get that. So it's almost another greenhouse is really what it is, but we use it as a shed. But this year I I've cleared out a space over here that if I have to put some big potted plants and stuff in here, that there's more room. And I've done this intentionally so that I could put some plants in here if I have to for this winter. And some of my big pots, I may do that in here. And I have another one of those lighting situation things in here to throw some light in here if you ever have to come out here at night. We have had to a couple times. Just shelving for random things for your garden. So this is kind of like my storage room for the things that I need in the garden, rather than being all the way down in the barn or my husband's shop, which is on the other side of our property, or taking up space in my greenhouse. So this is one of the reasons why we did this. Just extra pots and things that I store, that kind of thing. So it's kind of just my storage area. One thing I wanted to tell you, how I talked to you about, I don't know if I talked to you about this. My husband is a fisherman, and there is a place up at the lake that takes boards off the runners of a boat trailer. Usually when a boat trailer, part of the wood goes bad, it's just a section of it usually, and but they take off the whole runner, and this man just has piles of this wood back behind his shop. And sometimes when we have projects that need to be done, we will go and get a whole trailer load of that wood. Usually it has carpet on it. You could probably see some remnants of some carpet right there on that board right here. But we take all the carpet off, and that's not an easy task sometimes, pulling that carpet off. And it's usually rolled over and stapled on the underneath side of the board, okay? But the good thing about these boards, they're all different sizes. These are like a 2x4 board, but there's like a bigger board. I guess it's a 2x6 boards if they use pontoons, and they're all treated lumber. And so that's what makes this wonderful. And so it's a free resource. So this flooring for this building is planked 2x4. This thing is solid. I mean, you could, I don't even know. I mean, it's more solid than the floor of your house is this flooring on here. So what we did is we stripped all these 2x4s off. We turn the back side has the staples on them. Sometimes we get really in if we have to use it for a raft or something, we would pull all the staples out. But this time we just left the staples in because they're going to go up underneath the floor of this. So we just stacked, laid this side by side, screw gunned it in, and I mean this floor is solid. I'm not telling what you could do on this floor, but. So this was all free. We didn't pay any money for this. And then we got the siding was free. And so we did buy the 2x4s that we made the actual structure with, but we didn't in my chicken coop. We used those boards in my chicken coop to actually build the whole structure. And so what was, I don't even know how many feet this is. It's probably, let's see. That's probably about 3, 6, 9, 12. So this is about a 12 by 12 shed that all we paid for was the timbers. So I don't know how much that would be. You'd have to ask my husband. But it was literally for, just that was the cost of it. A couple $100 probably. You couldn't get a 12 by 12 building for that type of cost. And especially as built as solid as this is. And multi-purpose, because it's, being able to use it as an extension of my greenhouse. The windows could raise up and down. That's one of the things we may do, is take that middle window out and make a door from greenhouse into here. We haven't done that. We talked about doing that, but we built this in the heat of the summer last year, and my guys were just like, okay, Mom, this is it. You got to be happy with this. And I was extremely happy with it. So But that may be a future project, is to put the door in between these two, and then that would just be a complete extension of my greenhouse. And like, because I come in here and I store my pot, a lot of my big pots and everything here, and so I have to come in here and get pots and stuff out. But it's not any trouble. I just go out and run around and come back in and get it, and that kind of thing. So this is my greenhouse, y'all, or the extension of my greenhouse, and I'm just glad y'all came back to visit with me, and we'll talk to you later. Bye bye.